The instant or sorcery spell you cast gets Death Touch and Lifelink. I'll keep it real with you. I stopped reading right there and started brewing this new Judith, Carnage Connoisseur. And to be clear, I eventually kept reading the card, and it turns out the second ability is actually more explosive than the first, and is the main deck tech I will be sharing. But for a holistic view of this commander, let's start by leaning into that Death Touch ability. There are 3 1-red mana sorceries that deal damage to all opponent creatures, 3 more that are 1 and a red. When Judith is on the battlefield, every last one of those spells is a one-sided board wipe when you choose to give that spell Death Touch and Lifelink on the casting trigger. I'll give voice to those thoughts in your head. Yes, this is absolutely vile. Raise the bar to 4 mana and add instants and you're at 11 one-sided board wipes. Toss in Electrickery, that tricky devil, and we're at 12. Add the spells Dual Shot and Cast into the Fire, all the 1 mana deal damage spells your heart desires. The ones that'll exile creatures are even more valuable here, so the biggest threats can't come back for more. And for what it's worth, if you've got some burn pet card, this is the commander you've been waiting for to give that spell a comfy and useful home. When it comes down to it, so long as Judith is on the battlefield, the only creatures left standing are there by her mercy, and she doesn't have a whole lot of that to spare. That's why you've got to protect her and start building toward your main win condition, which will be commander damage. Before diving into attachables, of which you should have some, Black has a host of instants that'll make your commander really sticky while still getting value from that casting trigger. Just in case I have to say it, you'll want to choose the second casting trigger option, making that caustic 2/2 imp. Unless of course Judith is being exiled, in which case you can target her with a death-touched burn spell, followed up with Not Dead After All, fizzling that targeted removal and keeping her on the battlefield. A little more wicked. Is that worth the card investment? I'll leave that up to you. The modal double-faced card Malakir Rebirth is the premier version of this effect, on account of it also being a land. But there are plenty to choose from. Special shout out to Presumed Dead, a spoiled uncommon instant from Murders at Karlov Manor, that has this effect and also makes the creature suspected. That means it can't block, which in this case is fine, because it will also get Menace, which should go a long way in dealing combat damage to your opponents through their thinned out board states. After that, get your armor, your boots, your swords, assorted equipment and enchantments, and just go to town. Don't go overboard with these because instants like Raking Claws, Run Amok, and good old-fashioned brute strength will get more commander damage through while getting you those created tokens to hold down the fort. Remember to bring ramp and card draw, and now let's get to full-bore Rakdos spell slinging like you've never seen before. Right after you hit that big red subscribe button, take the 2 seconds, it'll count as your good deed for the day, and you'll get a main line to commander content like this coming your way every week. The way this deck works is you take 6, maybe 8 turns or so to set up a board state before ripping through your entire library with a combination of fast mana spells and card draw through sacrificing the imps created by Judith's casting trigger. Every instant or sorcery you cast will either add new creature fodder or replace your sacrificed creature. When you're casting all the spells from your deck, you'll end up with enough dead imps to burn down all your opponent's life totals to win the game. When it comes to spell slinging in the Rakdos colors, I can't think of anything more flavorful than a long line of sycophantic cultists sacrificing themselves for the glory of their master. Alright, let's start with some key pieces you'll want to set up for this combustible chain reaction. Virtue of Courage is the MVP that will damn near guarantee a win when successfully resolved. First off, Embereth Blaze is its own removal spell if you need it, or can create that sacrifice fodder. But more than that, a single dead imp will impulsively draw you 6 cards when you have 3 opponents. It's an utterly absurd amount of card advantage that will trigger for every imp's death. It's also not a mandatory trigger, so you won't mill yourself out. And since we're talking about card draw, Dark Prophecy, Species Specialist, and Liliana Dreadhorde General will net you 1 card in hand after a creature dies, or for the Species Specialist, an imp creature dies. The other piece of the pie is making sure you have the mana to keep casting spells. Birgi, God of Storytelling, and Urabrask will keep refilling the chamber with a red mana after every spell or instant/sorcery are cast, respectively. Stormkiln Artist, Pitiless Plunderer, and Runaway Steamkin will get you a treasure or 3 red mana when their conditions are satisfied. And finally, Phyrexian Altar and Ashnod's Altar will convert your creatures into whatever flavor of mana you need. I threw in Guttersnipe and Fiery Inscription as well to double down on the burn effects. But those are mostly cherries on top when compared to the pile of Pandapaws ice cream we just talked about. Why Pandapaws? Because it's the best ice cream. Duh. So that's the setup, combined with hopefully a mana rock or 2, and of course casting our commander, Judith, Carnage Connoisseur. Then it's a show-stopping glass cannon performance that only the former Scourge Diva could pull off. Through a combination of these fast mana spells, like Cabal Ritual, Jessica's Will, Culling the Weak, Infernal Plunge, Lotus Petal, and Rite of Flame, you'll have a steady stream of imps created for the altar and a bottomless pool of mana. If you've got Birgi on the battlefield, that bottomless pool just got deeper. When those imps reach the altar, Nasty End, Fanatical Offering, Deadly Dispute, Reckoner's Bargain, Dredge, and Bankrupt in Blood will keep the cards flowing. With Species Specialist on the battlefield, all those dead imps are converted to even more cards. And it bears repeating, 3 imps sacrificed is 18 impulsive cards drawn with Virtue of Courage, where you will be certain to find spells to keep the chain alive. When I've been goldfishing, among the best ways to close out a game is having Phyrexian Altar on the battlefield and casting Empty the Warrens after 5 or 10 spells worth of Storm, to more or less ensure you have the mana to cast the remaining spells you have available. You can find the deck list at the link in the description. Please subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments which version of Judith you're more into. I'll catch you next time for some more monkeying around.